All right, we are going to get started with the 5:30. I will call to order the regular agenda meeting of the Biwabik City Council. Shannon, can I have a roll call, please?
Here.
Here. Okay, we have no staff with us tonight, extra staff, so we will jump to the administrator's update.
Okay. So I have a handful of items, I guess, just to kind of fill you guys in on as far as what's been going on the last month. Just keep in mind it's been 5 weeks since I started, so a lot of this stuff is still preliminary. I don't have a thorough review of most of it yet. So personnel and staffing, so completed the initial review of all the staff and the contractor roles, so I have a good understanding of all of that. We had hired and onboarded Adam Lemieux, Public Works. I've begun a comprehensive kind of organizational review of essentially the city-wide. Each department, the leadership structure, the staffing, the responsibilities, the expectations, training, equipment, safety, all of these different things. I haven't done much on it other than sort of set the framework for it, and the next step is to sort of go out and begin implementing it. So there's that. Met with and negotiated the final steps for the union contract. I have oriented myself in iWork, and the next step is to schedule a training, and then we can start to hold some accountability and set expectations and all of that, and really begin implementing that completely. So the next step is to complete that kind of full organizational review, and then bring recommendations hopefully in the first quarter here of 2021. For communication and IT, the CTC fiber internet service was installed and is operational. We don't know if it fixed the problem up here yet, so we're kind of curious to see how the internet is up here. I think with these older buildings, it just doesn't travel very well, so we'll kind of see how it goes tonight and go from there if anything is needed up here. We have a preliminary list of IT upgrades, with the top priority being the desktop computers. They all run on Windows 10. That stopped being supported in October, so it's just a matter of time before those have big, bigger issues. So at the very least, that's what we're doing, is getting those, so at least they can have support if needed. I've oriented myself to the city website updates and done a handful of updates. There's still quite a bit more to do, and the data was filling up because a lot of the documents that are uploaded are in the tens of thousands of kilobytes. So those can be like reduced down and then re-uploaded. So I just did that for 1 year so far in 2024. It did bring our overall megabytes down just by doing that. And there's other years that I can do that in. So something to think about for the council is, what other stuff would you like to see on the website? Now that I kind of have an understanding of how it functions and works, it does look like we have pretty good overall ability to make changes. It's not just a couple of things. It looks like you can do quite a bit. So. There are a large number of obsolete computers, monitors, accessories, all over, wires scattered throughout City Hall, up here in back rooms, all over the place. Yeah. So next steps on that's probably going to be a longer term plan, but is to get rid of that stuff that we don't need anymore and clean it up. Some of that stuff may need to be kept for some reason or other, but there's quite a bit. So continue updating the website, sort out the Chambers internet issue, begin looking at social media. I know communication is important, so kind of starting that process, and then getting the computers upgraded. For employee benefits, the paid family medical leave is on track to be implemented January 1st. There are a couple steps we had to take in advance of that, but that's all set to be implemented. And I've done an initial review of the benefits package for employees, and the costs are extremely high for the city. Because of the timing and when you need to sign up and all of that, it's almost impossible to do something this year. So my thought or plan would be, in the coming months, to benchmark with surrounding communities, beginning the steps to meet with the brokers and carriers and figure out what alternative options that there are. Do a total kind of compensation analysis on the staff, and then prepare that for the council review. So for projects and grants, I have a high-level understanding, but each project is unique and complex, so you really need to kind of spend some time to understand them more in detail. So I have a high-level understanding, but need to get more. And upcoming is the water meter project and the City Hall Pavilion HVAC upgrades. Just kind of waiting on the final loan, which is on the agenda tonight, and getting the signed agreement with the IRRR, which we're waiting from them. And then just starting to keep an eye out now that I'm getting a better idea of what it is, the priorities and whatnot of the city, on what grants could potentially help those priorities come to fruition. So I'm going to review the projects more in depth, begin determining funding for future projects, ensure that all former reimbursements have been submitted. I think some of that may have gotten lost in the shuffle during the transition, and then ultimately hopefully have a comprehensive list of all the projects, where we're at with them, and potential grant opportunities. Almost done, sorry. For EMS, I've just done an initial review of EMS, so a deeper dive is needed. We did submit the annual ambulance report to the Office of EMS a couple of weeks ago. So a more thorough review is needed, and determine if there's any issues or gaps and things like that. For budget and finance, I'll save most of my comments for when we get to that point, but obviously the budget is in there. I'll just note that it is a large, complex budget, and generally you have months and months to sort of look through this and review it and get feedback and all of that. So kind of being thrown into it over the last few weeks, it's been kind of a tall order to try to put it all together and at least have a good understanding of it. So I feel good on the high level, but when you really start digging into, repair and maintenance and operating supplies and all these different funds and buckets, that's something that kind of takes time to really understand. Is this high because there was just a one-off, we had to purchase this and this was only this year and it was $6,000 and now we don't have to next year? And that takes a lot longer to really understand the budget more thoroughly. So I'll kind of save the rest for that. And the only other thing I'll mention, this community has so much potential. When I'm familiar with all the other communities around the area, and Biwabik has growth and people trying to build and trying to move here and trying to open up businesses, and I just wanted to point out that this community should feel very lucky that, and maybe it's not all luck, but they've set up a system that is encouraging more and more growth and development, and other communities generally are begging for that. So that's nice to see. So I will leave it at that.
Thank you, and I will comment one real quick. I definitely appreciate you looking into the benefits package. We've been begging for that, for lack of a better term, for a couple of years. So that's fantastic. No other no. Council, questions on the meeting agenda items. We'll start with Councillor Wallert this week.
Can I ask questions about the contract?
Yeah, anything on the agenda.
Okay.
Yep.
On page 7, there's just some things I don't quite understand. Page 7, okay, it's section, all full-time employees will be allowed to carry over one additional holiday next year. So if they don't use their vacation, do they lose it, or do they sell it back?
Hang on, give me 1 second. I believe, what do we normally do, Shannon? If somebody doesn't use their vacation, do they?
They can carry it over 40, but if they have any more than 40,
Yeah.
okay, and then I mean, we encourage them to use their but they cannot sell it back. And then on page 8, I really don't understand section.
Which, I guess we never, that's unchanged from previous years, so, Shannon, can you elaborate on that part? How have we handled that practice? Because like I said,
It's because it's only if you max out your sick leave. So if you get to the 1,500 hours, then you would get a sick leave incentive program.
oh,
So that's the only,
That's-
so if you max out your sick leave, then you would get the sick leave incentive program.
that's why we didn't discuss it, because it never gets achieved.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, I have no idea.
I was like, I read this thing up and down, what are you, okay,
That's the only thing.
okay. Counselor Nemi. Counselor Lehman.
I had,
Counselor Berg.
just one on the bills, if I can ask. a question
Absolutely.
about the bills. Let's do another SEPI bill. We're gonna keep piling up these, concrete barriers, or we're gonna do something in 5 months. This is kind of what we paid. I'm assuming the SEPI bill is for the same concrete that we've been building up by Public Works. That's just piling up higher and higher. We're gonna have
What-
a two-layer,
Oh, yeah, bin block.
droppings and burn them up.
Yeah, that was the second part of that delivery, and I don't know what Michael, do we have a,
Fifth time, that's the second one. It's kind of curious, so we keep, I don't know how many we have though, and I looked one time, it was like 20, piling up and doing nothing. Kind of questioning, why are we gonna put them on? I mean, we can't do anything now, because it's going to grass. But I'm just curious, well, what are we, what's the plan?
turn your mic on.
I understand what the background is, that these were delivered and what the plan was and all that, but I don't know the exact next steps on what the plan is. Can they be placed in winter, or are they just stuck there till spring? I guess that would be one thing to figure out. I can't speak to why they weren't done previously, unfortunately.
I'm just gonna keep asking every month until
I-
it comes.
I think it's a good point for tomorrow's staff meeting.
Yep, I got it on the list here, so. yep.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Counselor Berg. If no one else has any other questions on the agenda, we will, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion second to adjourn the agenda meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 17:43. We'll call to order the regular city council meeting, City of Biwabik, at 1800 on December 8th. Shannon, can you have a roll call, please?
Here.
Here. If able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we get on to agenda approval, I would like to offer a moment of silence. Our community lost two former, one city councilor, one PUC, and Mark Jackson was also a founding member of the Biwabik Area Civic Association. So I would offer a moment of silence for Mark Jackson and Jack Larson. Thank you. Excuse me. Item 4, agenda approval. It has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Skipping 6 because there was none. Number 7, nuisance hearing. There was none. Moving on to item 8, presentations. Mr. Jay Hapola from AARP, Age-Friendly Biwabik presentation. Jay, if you could hit the square rectangle button on the microphone there.
Well, thank you, Mayor Beyondich, and council members and staff and everyone who came out to see my presentation tonight. I really appreciate that. My name is Jay Hapola. I work for AARP here in Minnesota. Our state office is down in St. Paul. We cover the state as well as we can. We're a big membership association, of course, and we work on behalf of people over the age of 50, engaged in legislative advocacy work and education, and doing everything we can to promote choice for us all as we age and get older. I'm here to welcome you and congratulate you and thank you for joining AARP's network of age-friendly communities. So Biwabik became the 1,010th community to join earlier this year. And membership in the network of age-friendly communities is a commitment that you've made. So this isn't necessarily in recognition of all Biwabik has to offer today, but it's a commitment by you as elected leaders. It's a commitment by residents to work together and make improvements in your community that impact people, and really people of all ages, but especially that are inclusive of older adults who live here or visit just the same. Of course, the demographics are shifting, and that is a good thing. It has been coming for a long time. People are living longer. A larger percentage of your residents are older folks than compared to what it used to be like. And I think especially people like you understand that the investments you make, the infrastructure projects that you engage with and develop last longer than people and their preferences and their needs that have changed. So right now the local committee is in the assessment phase, collecting responses from residents about their needs and preferences, especially as it has to do with the physical environment. What are your public spaces in your community like? Also, when it comes to the social environment, how do older residents here have a chance to be included and have opportunities to make those social connections with each other? And also the service environment. So what can be improved and what do people need for the services that they rely on? And again, you're no stranger to providing those type of features in Biwabik and in your community. So again, I'd love to welcome you to the network. I brought with me this certificate that we'd love for you to display here at City Hall or somewhere else in the community. And it reads, this is to certify that the City of Biwabik, Minnesota has committed to becoming more age-friendly under the criteria established by our program. If you'd be willing, I'd really like to take a picture with you and the certificate, if we could do that real quick.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
She can take the picture quick.
Sure.
I also want to thank Councillor Wallert, who kind of spearheaded all this with a few other community members. I believe Mary, Jan, and was Sally involved in that too?
No.
Oh, you just.
Not yet.
Hi. All right.
Still looking for people.
Oh. Yeah, come on up here. You got Larry earlier, right? He gets you back. I got you, Larry. Thank you, sir. Yeah, right. Okay. We are going to move on to item 9. So I will suspend the regular council meeting at 18:06 and open the the Truth and Taxation public hearing at 18:06. As it says on the screen, while I go through this couple of slides here, if you do want to address the council, please sign in on that sheet, because while the administrator gives his presentation, I'll randomly generate the numbers to pick the order. So Truth and Taxation hearing, purpose, transparency on levy and budget required by Minnesota Statute 275.065. Public input is part of the process. Levy versus budget versus valuation. Levy is what the city collects. Budget is how the city spends. Valuation is what each property is valued at. Valuation changes do not automatically raise taxes. Extra note, each year in the spring, there is a local board of appeals and equalization that property owners are allowed to discuss and appeal their assessed property values. I'm sure everybody here is aware of that because there's a lot of familiar faces, but for anybody that wasn't. This is public input. This is a public hearing. It is not a public forum. Comments and input from presenters must be directed to the council. For example, if Mr. Jones offers budgetary inputs and suggests that to the council we should sell the pavilion and Mrs. Robinson disagrees, Mrs. Robinson cannot address Mr. Jones in debate. She can only address the council during her time. We'll try to keep it to 2 to 3 minutes per speaker. Depending on the number of speakers, we can adjust that as accordingly. Comments must address budget and levy only. Comments on property valuations are not allowed at this hearing. And please maintain decorum and absolutely no personal attacks. And we will turn this over to the city administrator. Some explanation on taxation, levies, tax capacity from our city administrator, Mr. Michael Schultz.
Thank you, Mayor. So I had briefly touched on this right at the beginning there, kind of saved some of the comments for now. So the first thing I would just note is that normally during a budget cycle, you would start it in the late summer, and you'd have many months to sort of go through it and review it and gather feedback. This year, with the former city administrator leaving, that made it a bit more difficult. So I've had about 5 weeks on top of everything else to review the budget and do my best to either reduce expenses where we could or increase revenues where we could as well. The information that was available, the budget worksheets, they were large and complex and robust, but a lot of the data didn't necessarily transfer over and it wasn't always consistent. I did find lots of opportunities to, in the future, be able to provide much more robust and thorough analysis of the financial situation for the city, but this is too short of a time frame to put that out there. So I will be looking for feedback on different regular reports that you all would like to see on a regular basis in the future. A couple of other little things. The appraised values have increased drastically. The market values have increased. The city, the county, and other taxing authorities have increased their levies. If you look at I don't know if the public has it, but I put 2 sheets on your tables there. What you're looking at, one of them being the tax rate sheet that is essentially drawn from the Department of Revenue. Some of those numbers may be familiar with the taxable market value. And what it's trying to show is from 2021 through 2025, the increase in the values, what the levy was at, and sort of what the net tax capacity rates are, and the overall average effective tax rate. And then assuming a 4% market value increase in 2026, you'd have the numbers there. The other document is for the 2025 City of Biwabik taxes is a real world examples. These are from homes in Biwabik, what their value is, what they actually pay to the city, county, and the rest. In 2026, this is where it gets difficult. If you just do a blanket 30% increase, which is what's showing there below, that may not necessarily reflect exactly what it is, and the 30% comes from the levy amount is about 30% higher than last year. That at least gives a general idea of what that sort of looks like, but that's not taking into account all of the other pieces that are taken in for that. Second here. The only other couple of items that I'll mention is that, from what I understand, the levy had been boosted last year with $100,000. That's not there this year. There's a new fire truck payment on here, a mineral tax reimbursement that the city is being asked to reimburse back of about $134,000. We're in the budget. It's broken into 3 years at $45,000 each. The police contract and personnel costs, just in general, going up. That accounts for about $255,000 out of the 384 increase to the levy. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not counting the extra 100. So 355 out of the 384 is just based on that fire truck, the mineral tax, the police contract, personnel costs, and that 100,000 that's not there. So, yes, the levy is high. Yes, we did have an initial preliminary levy of 40%. After I'd gone through and reviewed it, that came down to about 30%. Council can obviously approve it if they would like. Otherwise, if the council desires, we could always hold a special meeting in another week or so, which would give a little bit more time to review this budget more in depth and hopefully find either some one-offs that we could then remove or take out and potentially reduce the levy further. So, I will leave it at that unless there's any questions.
Before we start with any public input, does any of the council have a question for the administrator? Okay, hearing none.
I do.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilor.
I think the budget committee should meet soon before there's some things in it that I've seen that you're not going to be aware of just coming into town, that I guess some of us older people like Larry and me would kind of see in the budget that's being presented. And I think the budget committee should meet, and we'll have a special meeting before the end of the year.
Thank you, Councilor Berg. So for the public input, the first line item said presenters will be called upon to the podium by random number, but nobody signed in. So I have a hard time believing everybody's here without wanting to say something. So on that, we'll just do a first come, first serve basis. But excuse me. When you're called upon, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. There is no on-deck presenter, so we don't need that. Please maintain order and decorum. And members, this is for everybody now. Members of the public wishing to address the council do not sign in will still have the opportunity to speak. So with that, we will just do any input from anyone. Mr. McGilvery, please step to the podium and state your name. And
Todd McGilvery, 6525 Voyager Trail. I basically just have some questions about the budget numbers. The first one is I'm looking at 2025 and I'm seeing a surplus of $1,355,000. What are we doing with that? It says the budget then year to date, and there's $1.3 million left.
That was the LCA grant, spent all that money last year, and
Okay. So it's going to be gone by the end of the year, $1,355,000. Okay. And that was on streets or? Oh, okay.
LCCMR is the Legislative Citizen, I can't remember, something board. So it's that extra Minnesota sales tax, and they distribute it through, well, supposedly all of Minnesota. We were lucky to get it, but it's for like outdoor recreation and things like that. So.
Yeah. Okay. Public Works wage went up 61,000. Is that an additional hire, or is that just percentage increases? That's about 30% increase.
I'll direct that to staff.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's just that specific wages and salary line. I would have based off of their compensation package.
Okay. So that was that union negotiated increase for next year?
It would include all. I guess I might want to look at this.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that kind of stuck out. So I was wondering if that, it's almost like an additional person. Pretty close. Okay. The police contract has gone up substantially the last 2 years. Actually, it went up less this year. I didn't realize it had gone up.
It hadn't gone up since 2017.
Yeah, 400, yeah, but last year went up 438.
Yes.
I didn't even realize that. I thought it all hit this year, so. Actually, the percentage increase in the police wasn't as much
3%.
this year. We got the hit last year.
Right.
But the question with that is, I think Dino pays us $12,000 a year. Has anybody approached them? We've gotten a big increase. Can we pass that on?
So we're going to reach out to, we did the math. Once we've got this police contract straightened out this year, like I said, it hadn't increased since 2017. So doing a percentage increase, that 12,000, based on the increase of our police contract, would be at 21.8, I believe. So I haven't signed that contract yet. Gilbert did approve it, and that's on my report for later. Gilbert did approve it, so we will be able to sign that. And now with that number, we can reach out to Dino to, it probably actually will be very close to offsetting the entire increase for next year.
Excellent. Let's see. There's kind of, there's been talk about increase in the tax base, right? You know, hopefully someday the tax base will increase to a point where we won't have these property tax increases. And you all got an email from me, you know, that I'm not too happy about the increase. Probably nobody here is, but the tax base has increased 59% since 2020. And my city tax amount has increased 80%. So increasing the tax base has increased my taxes. So it's kind of all about spending. So I'm just hoping that somewhere down the line here, and I guess that's one of my future questions, is what are the future plans? Are we going to be seeing increases like this every year? Are we on a big spend to catch up with things that have fallen through the cracks for years, which you and I kind of discussed, and I understand that, and it's time, right? But what's next year and the year after? Is there any long-term plan on spending, or other than the fire truck?
We have talked, I know, internally, have discussed a lot of the things that have been deferred over the years, the proverbial kicking the can down the road, which started probably before most of us were up here. I won't mention any names, but there was a counselor that we all refer to endearingly as, you know, that was the negative budget days. And, you know, you look at things that we've deferred. It's 61 degrees in here right now because our HVAC system doesn't work. And at some point in time, the pipes are going to freeze. Our staff is going to get froze out. So we're trying to get ahead and stop some of this hemorrhaging that continues and continues and continues. And I know that's been a pretty big discussion with our new administrator of how we can stop this rampant just inflation all the time, and then never getting anything for it. That's the other part of it. So there has been a lot of discussion on that. You know, as everybody knows, the last fire truck we purchased was before my time here. You know, was we couldn't afford the new truck that we needed, so they bought a used truck, and that used truck is costing a fortune, and we still don't have a new truck. So, You know, that's, you've
We
got,
still can't afford it.
we still can't afford, so, but now we gotta
But
pay
we're gonna-
double.
we have
If we
to.
would've got it, it's a 40-year investment. If we would've spent half the money on it. So at some point in time, you just have, you know, and nowadays too, we looked at the used options. You spend 700 grand on a used truck, I mean, for what? You know, now you're just back to this whole maintenance schedule. So we're definitely trying to stop that hemorrhaging and trying to plan ahead. And I've recently told the story about last year, our Public Works garage, grass company red tagged our overhead furnaces, leaking CO into the shop. So having your employees sit next to CO detectors is not acceptable. Instead of getting it fixed right away, it was just ignored. And come last November, geez, it's getting cold in here. Now we order overhead furnaces. Can't get them for 4 weeks. Could have got them in June though. So instead of doing that, then we had to pay to have electrical put in. Then we had to rent electrical heaters, and then you had to pay the astronomical bill to do that, just to put the same furnaces in. Things like that that has to stop. And putting any more money into I mean, if anybody looks at our old city hall / fire department, it's, you know, the gap under the door is this big. It's a condemned building, you know, it's boarded up and we're still putting money into it. It's insane. So we're, you know, and the IRRR just awarded us a $385,000 grant for HVAC upgrades to this building and the pavilion. And because of the hardship that we're facing, we're not required of the one-to-one match. So there was a lot of paperwork and a lot of working behind that, but we've got to protect our investments. So that's been a lot of the, you know, I know that's been a priority since day one for myself. So I think we're getting there, and I think we can get the bleeding to stop. And so when we do add tax capacity, because I think in the last 3 years we've added $3 million or $30 million of tax capacity, and that's, you know, that's how you keep the increases at bay.
Yeah.
So
It's actually 43 million since 2020. But again, my city tax has gone up 80%, so. It's just that, you know, it's difficult to afford. I mean, I know, preaching to the choir, you're all getting increases too. I had 2 to 3 minutes, so. Those were my main questions, and I do appreciate everybody's service. I do. It's not an easy job, so, and I understand that. But
Thanks, Todd.
We can look to keep things under control, great, and fix it. Thank you.
is there anyone else? Sorry, I don't know your name, sir. Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Bruce McGibbon, 6565 Voyagers Trail. I just have one comment, and that is, and I know you guys are, you know, this is tough stuff. I understand the numbers and stuff. 30% hurts. You know, I would love to get a 30% raise at work. It's never happened in my long work history. So I know you guys are working hard, but just be mindful that everything's going up in money, expense. This is going up in expense, and it hurts. So anything you can do to sharpen pencils, and, you know, just be wise about money. And as you were saying, think about long term, so that this doesn't happen every year. Because like I said, I've never gotten a 30% raise in my life, and gosh, I don't expect I'm ever going to get one. But if this keeps going up 30%, it's like, how many keep up? It's hard. So thanks.
And just so you know, too, the numbers that came out from the St. Louis County, that was 40.4. And the numbers that you're seeing here tonight are 29.58, I think. I don't remember, whatever you had in that paper. So, anyone else?
My name's Greg Schultz, and I'm at 6223 Voyagers Trail. And my only comment is, considering I've heard lots of talk about the fire engine, besides what you've probably all heard, but I was wondering if anyone's considered, or if it would be possible
why not share those expenses, for example, with Aurora? The police is handled that way, and so, and think how thin the stretch they may be. So, you know, I'm sure there's not very many fires every year in general. I don't know what those numbers may be, but why not share that expense with Aurora? I mean, where I lived before, I highly doubt there was maybe a volunteer fire department, excuse me, within 3 miles, 4 miles. Well, that's about what Aurora is. And they built a whole new buildings over there, you know, that could be shared also. And why couldn't they pay for half the fire, as an example? Because I'm sure it doesn't get used that much. So the rarity of a fire and a team getting there wouldn't be an excessive amount of time, I don't think. So anyway, that's my comment.
So we have started meetings with, through the East Range Joint Powers Board, of the local bodies of Aurora, Biwabik, Hoy Lakes, Don White. There's a group that's had some preliminary discussions on that very thing. I don't know where that's going to go at this point. It's extremely preliminary, but that first meeting has taken place. Any more comments?
Questions. Addressing the budget committee. When the negotiations were going on with the police department and so forth, did Biwabik propose have its own specifications for Gilbert to look at, or were we basically looking at what they were wanting to give to us without having our own counter proposal in terms of coverage and so forth?
So, no, so the council had directed myself and the administrator to negotiate the police contract.
So the same question goes to you.
Yeah, so Gilbert had given us a proposal which was starting $25,000 higher for this year than we were at. So there was a lot of back and forth. I don't think you were at the meeting where the council, we discussed it at a meeting and said, we're not willing to pay this upgrade. We are willing to accept some of their other proposals in that contract. We went back to them. The Gilbert Council chamber filled. They had to bring in more chairs, just like here tonight, because they were trying to charge us 65% on the revenue, or I'm sorry, 35% on the revenue side, not taking into account expenditures. From a negotiation standpoint, myself and our interim administrator, when he was here, were not willing to even accept that, and that's why we brought it back to the council, and we sent them back a proposal. The guts and glory of the actual contract hasn't changed. The coverage, we still have the 21 hours per day of coverage, some of those things, but they wanted us to store our own you got to keep stuff forever now. If there's a certain, like a homicide or something, you got to keep all the evidence. They wanted us to store our own stuff. Trying to think of anything else that might have been in there. They had asked for these extremely high increases, and we just said, no, it's just not acceptable. And we went off of what the police chief had came up with. This is what it costs to provide service to Biwabik.
I don't take issue.
No.
I don't take issue with what Gilbert has put forth in terms of its calls and so forth. But I went back and I looked at the numbers that were being proposed, and basically I went back and said, do we need 21 hours of coverage? If we went back and looked at and used the same 12,000 or whatever it ended up to be on a quarterly basis and a monthly basis and so forth, and dropped back to 21 or 16 hours, basically a 16-hour coverage, that would have saved the city $100,000, $104,000 by just dropping back for coverage for 5 more hours. And I don't think the question in terms of sometimes when the budget comes up is, the question, the past meeting was, we're pleased with Gilbert, and we are. Nobody's disputing that. The question never got asked, do we need 21 hours? And what justifies that? And it gets to this gentleman's point over here, is that sustaining 30% increase or 25% on a year-to-year basis without looking at moving the needle the other way needs some really hard decisions to make. And I'm putting forth the idea that in addition to the hours on fire, we could be looking at public works. Do we need 4 people and so forth without justification by reports and so forth? I brought this up at other parts of the meeting. But in terms of decisions that need to be made going forth, that's really what it comes down to. There are going to be some tough decisions to make to be able to do that, and some of them might be, we can't sustain 21 hours. We need to save $100,000 here. Do we need to look at insurance for our employees and so forth, which is a considerable amount of money? We are not in the employment business. You know, we have an obligation, or as I was up on your side, a fiduciary responsibility to everybody in this audience right here. Because it's easy to spend other people's money, but in actuality, you know, it's our money. And we don't sometimes, when it comes to taxes, we don't really pay attention to it as much as we should. I'm putting myself in that position. The other thing that was mentioned, and it really needs to be taken up to, and I'm glad, Steve, that you're having this meeting with the East Range Joint. The East Range Joint Powers meeting needs much more exploration, because had we not made a decision to jump ahead on this fire truck and so forth, belonging to an East Range Joint Powers Board, we could have been able to leverage their powers over there financially to be able to buy that truck in a different way. So we didn't do that, but I think going forward right here, we need to rely on the collaboration amongst the cities to be able to keep everything in check. So I brought up one on the police, the public works. I know is going to be evaluated, and I hope you have a plan moving forward. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Setniger.
Tom Augustus on Origins Trail. I just have a couple comments. One is looking outside the box. Mount Iron seems to be able to look outside the box. The use of outside energy such as solar and windmills. That's outside the box, but it really works well for Mount Iron. The costs, I know our president hasn't helped us in that way, but I'm not sure what the costs would be. I think over time it'll be cheaper than trying to buy energy from Minnesota Power. So that's something to look at. It could save us looking far ahead. Not today, but far ahead, so the people that come in live behind, well, I'll be dead by the time. But anyhow, more than likely.
Now you sound like John.
But anyhow, I think that's something you should look into, alternative energy sources, because that's probably one of the largest sources of money that you have to spend other than employees. So that would be one way of looking at it, and a combination of the cities. I know you're doing that, but us and Aurora are so close together. Why don't we use some of their services to help us, and vice versa? It's got to become to a point where you, as large of a community as we have to start sharing things with the other communities around us. It makes total sense for everybody. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deb Holmstrom, 6543 Voyagers Trail. So it sounds to me like what we're doing is playing catch up on a lot of things that were ignored for several years. Now, Voyagers Retreat isn't that old. And it almost sounds to me like we're paying for things that were ignored for years prior to that development even being there. Now, and then we're paying the brunt of everything because our homes are larger than those in town. A lady complained last week that her taxes went up 70% for the city, but her taxes only went up about $100. Now my property taxes are going to go up the proposed was like 1,600. That's just the increase. So when you compare what the people in the city are actually paying for that live in the city proper, compared to what Voyager's Retreat is investing and putting into these property taxes, it's huge. To me, there's got to be some kind of equilibrium here between everybody that's sharing these resources. And Voyager's Retreat's paying for just about, we're paying the majority. So that's just, you know, our increases are bigger than what the people in town are even paying for property taxes. Our increases are. And I don't necessarily think that we should be paying for things that were put off in previous years that we didn't even take advantage of. We weren't here. You know, those were things that the people in town should have been paying for. And my question, I mean, just a general thought for me is, where would the city of Biwabik be without Voyager's Retreat's input into the property taxes? We're covering probably 90% of what's coming in. And we're getting very few services, and we're paying for things that weren't covered for years. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Corky, you might be one of the town elders, but you still got to go to the podium. I said you might be one of the town elders, but you still got to go to the podium. No, John's here.
I'm the highest mileage, put it that way. Under revenues, I don't know if this is all new to me. Anyhow, under revenues, I don't see on here is what income that campground is brought in. Where is that list?
Can we please, if you need to have a conversation, you're more than welcome to. So sorry.
Where is the list of revenue for what we got out of that campground per year, per month, for whatever? I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
I don't know what page it is, but it's under recreation.
They don't, are you not gonna list that income separately so we know what the hell it is?
It's line item.
My point is, I do a lot of traveling and campgrounds are expensive, and that campground, I live right there, that campground is very, very busy, and I have no idea what it's bringing in now, none, no clue, but I think we should know that, and that thing should be a real good money maker for this city. Is it making money for the city? And if it isn't, why not? It's full all the time. So back to my question, where does it show what we got out of that last year or whatever years? I would like to see that. Obviously, I'm not an accountant, but I think that should be listed separately. What's our income and what are our expenses for that? You're showing me there? Where?
This is all campground.
That's all campground?
It'll list
Exactly how it's broken
seasonal
down.
storage, seasonal fees, and campground fees. Three
Wait,
separate line
excuse me, I
items.
didn't hear that. What?
Yep, it has seasonal storage, seasonal fees, and campground fees are the line items, and then there's a sleep and ski line.
I see seasonal fees. Is that campground? Oh, campground fees, 75,000, that's what that, is that what it
Yes,
brought in
there's-
last
it's
year?
seasonal, campground, and then I guess storage and sleep and ski. So the seasonals are separated from the non-seasonals.
Well, this is way too confusing for me. So how much did that campground bring in last year?
The revenue year-to-date, as of December 5th, was $150,433. That includes charges for services of $10, seasonal storage of $2,000, seasonal fees of about $78,000, campground fees of about $67,000, and the sleep and ski at about $2,800.
Another question I had, which really is irrelevant, but what is their fee? Does anybody know what their fee is? We have somebody come and visit with our travel trailer and they want to go dump it at the campground. Is there a set fee for that? If people who are not staying there want to use their facility, do we have a fee for that somewhere?
Well, I guess I don't. Do we?
The lady running that, I think, is doing a really swell job, and I don't really know her. But people want to dump, and what are they going to charge me? I mean, septic system, just you're pumping your septic system, no, it can be $400. So what's it cost to dump there? $10, $50? What? How can we establish that?
I can't answer, I have to look it up, I don't know the number.
but they do have it somewhere?
Yeah, I can find out.
Okay. And I'd like to know that, and I'd like to see it posted there, so somebody comes, well, there's where you're going, and that's what it's
So
gonna cost.
are you talking about them just coming through Biwabik and dumping?
Yep, not staying there at all.
No,
There's
I
a,
don't think we do that.
what's the
But,
fee for that?
but I will check to make sure that I'm not being spoken,
Well,
okay?
I appreciate that should be looked into, because if they're gonna say, no, if you aren't using a campground, you can't dump there, then you know damn well somebody's gonna go alongside the road and dump in a ditch. So I think that policy should be set a fee. If it costs $20 or $50, that's what it costs. But it would avoid people going to dump in the ditch, which you see happening. It's disgusting.
Yeah,
So I'd like to see that.
okay. I'll get it for you.
And back to the taxes, I'm glad you guys are in this position. I'm not. Everybody's taxes are going crazy, including mine. What do we do? Thank you.
Thanks, Corky. Is there anyone else?
Tyler Nessett, 104 North Creek Drive. One thing I'm just curious, because I know with the campground, this year we were down quite a bit proposed versus the budget, what we were hoping to bring in. You may not know as the council, but was a factor in this year's income due to the upgrades and some of those factors, do you think, playing in? Like, are we hoping to see more of an income next year because of not having to redo the driveway and all that, or?
I think that was a big part of, and that's why we didn't increase rates for this year either, is because the year before was such a nightmare for the campers. But yeah, the year prior was real bad. And I know we've had kind of record occupancy. It's been really good for occupancy wise. I think what we do is we budget for the entire occupancy, what it's capable of bringing in. So and I think what fell like 7,000 short out of that 75. So.
All right, and then one thing I just want to make comment too, because with respect to a lot of those in Voyagers, because I understand their taxes are much higher, but as someone that also moved to town just a few years ago, I think it's a slippery slope if we don't want to try to work together as a community. I mean, we need to help them get their taxes lowered. It's not justifiable for anybody, and there is an imbalance, and that's something that, you know, over time, those are things we can work together. But I think we need to remember as a community to be active, and not just at the end of the year when the budget comes up, but how can we try to resolve this throughout the year? So.
Thank you, Mr. Nissett. Oh. Okay, is there anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Sold. Okay, we will then close the Truth and Taxation hearing at 18:43 and reconvene the regular council meeting at 18:43. We will jump to mayor and council member reports. We will start with Councilor Berg.
I was notified just before the meeting that it sounds like we have a sign sabotage going on. There's a few signs down in town that I didn't even know. I don't know if they were hit by plows or hit, but there's, how many signs are down, Kenny?
Two that I know.
Okay,
The handicap by the post office, stop sign on South Avenue.
okay.
What is stop sign is over the weekend. The handicap sign is also the first one.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, that's the one.
Good old MnDOT.
And on the positive side, what a Why Not Fest. Volunteers are amazing. Thank you to everybody. That was one wonderful weekend. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilor Lehman.
Yeah, just to point on Danny's point, the Why Not Fest went off really good. Good showing for people, vendors, people coming into town, checking everything out. Fireworks were great. Lighting contest was good. But yeah, all in all, a good Why Not Fest.
Counselor Nemi.
The same as the other two, the Why Not Fest was wonderful. I want to thank everybody for all the hard work that they do. I know a lot of people, a lot of people do a lot of stuff and don't even say anything that they volunteered for. So I want to let everyone know I appreciate all the work they did. Thank you.
Counselor Waller.
So earlier today, we held a moment of silence, for Mark Jackson and Jack Larson, and Harry Quinton is also passed. And I just want everybody to know that they will be missed because they're all instrumental in this town and making this town what it was. And yeah, I want to thank Tracy Melody and Casey Jarvie Beyondich for organizing all the volunteers for Why Not Fest. I mean, there's hundreds of volunteers, and just to organize all those people to make this be such a wonderful event is just amazing. And I want to thank everyone who decorated their homes, their businesses, and the planters out front along Main Street, and the Caring for Kids community who sponsored the lighting contest. Do you know how much money they gave out in prizes?
I think it was $1,000.
Okay, so I mean, that was just great. And then Corky had brought up the campground. We saw in our packet tonight there is a campground report of what the revenue was that was brought in. But I think we also need to see what the expenditures for the campground are. And I don't know if that's something you would be able to pull together, Michael, or not.
Should be able to, yeah.
Okay, so I think that's important because that's like running a business. And I'm just wishing everybody happy holidays. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll jump onto the, Mark Kraus and his crew did the park decorating, which was fantastic. And thanks to everybody who did brave the cold. Because I can tell you right now, trying to announce the winners of the lighting contest and the gazebo steps, oof, I'm sure Santa had one heck of a time up in that gazebo all day too. Anyways, and Councilor Lehman does get a honorable mention for his lighting. As you come into town here from the east, it kind of shows that Biwabik's got some Christmas spirit. So I think he should have won. Anyways, I did mention earlier that the Gilbert police contract, the City of Gilbert did approve, and we just haven't signed it yet, but it was approved at their last council meeting, so we are good for 2 years on that. I want to welcome Adam Lemieux to our Public Works crew. He's already proven to be a great employee. And I also want to mention the IRRR meeting that got us our grant for fixing our pavilion and our city hall. From the Truth and Taxation hearing, if you look back and see how much money we've spent with Iron Range, heating and plumbing, and everybody else, just to barely keep these things running that are well obsolete and not very efficient. In fact, during Why Fest this weekend, my wife had to come up here 4 different times to turn the valve on and off to regulate the heat in this room. And that's just no way to continue operating it's been, we've been battling with this for 5 to 10 years now. So it's definitely very much appreciated with the IRRR. I did want to address a couple, I got a couple of emails basically on the levy as well. I won't go through all of everybody's comments on there, but there was a few comments about how much land the IRRR does own within our city limits. But I do want to mention that we've gotten 180, just in the last, within the last 12 months, we've gotten 185,000 for new water meters, and which are, well, much needed. We've gotten $250,000 towards the 1st and 5th Avenue reconstruction through the Public Works Grant Program, and then another $384,000. So, granted, yes, they don't pay taxes on those parcels, at Giants Ridge. However, we do, when we ask for it, we get the money. We just have to ask for it. I've also had a lot of discussions with not only the commissioner but the board about Residents Club and getting those to private ownership versus IRRR ownership. So there has been plenty of discussion on that because that's all just buildable lots that could be paying taxes. So, and as we all know, we all want to shorten our piece of the pie. Otherwise, that is all I had, and we will move on through the agenda. There is no old business, so we will move on to new business. Resolution 2025 says XX. I'm sorry, I'm not.
Yeah, I'll just note that when I put this together, I think there's been some confusion on a number of the resolutions, so rather than putting it on here, we decided to have right to follow the progressive numbers.
So in front of you, Council, you have the Minnesota Rural Water Association application and the resolution. It has been moved and supported to approve resolution, was it 2025? 27, that, you're right. Is there any discussion?
There, I have a question for you. I think that we've already seen the increase in our utility bill payments.
Part of it, I believe the PUC, and Shannon, Michael, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the PUC did incorporate the rate to pay for this loan. This is the other portion that matches the IRRR that I just mentioned. So, but I do believe it's already in place.
Yeah, they've started to build that fund already, and if you look, I think our first payment, there's like a small payment in 6, and then it gets bigger in 27. So they're gonna be able to build up that money for potentially almost the whole next year, which should have a little bit of a, because I think they're generating not quite the full 31,000 with that rate. But if you can take that money that's generated before the payments are made, then you may not have to raise rates for a while to make up that difference, because you'll have that difference already kind of in the hamper already.
Well, and that's what I was just hoping that citizens were going to have their bill raised more, because I thought that was already, on the bill. So that was my only question.
Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor to approve the resolution? Oh, I'm sorry, we'll need a roll call. Aye. Motion's approved, resolution is adopted. Moving on to item B, review and approval of the 49ers contract and paid family medical leave implementation. It has been moved and seconded to approve the 49er contract. Is there any discussion? I do want to thank everybody that was involved in all the meetings and work that went into that, so.
So now with this new contract and the elimination of the working foreman, so then is Mr. Schultz going to be in charge of Public Works and daily tasks and everything?
As of right now, yes, and then we're hoping to have a memorandum of understanding if we need a,
Yeah, and I
you
would
can,
just mention that from what I see with my work, that kind of takes care of it. So if we can get that implemented, working and rolling, then your direction can be provided essentially through that. So, yeah, that is the hope. Now, we can always, as the mayor mentioned, do like a memorandum of understanding if it's needed for maybe a transition period over the next couple of months until we can get that sorted. And to allow me time to see how much involvement is there, how much, am I micromanaging or not, or can the tasks essentially be set, and then accountability through the iWork system would take care of issues like that. So that's still slightly up in the air, but the hope would be that iWork is essentially handling that with myself, watching it.
is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12C, approval of Biwabik Campground and Beach Host Contract.
I'll make the motion.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the contract for the 2026 campground and beach campground host.
So, I have a question, Larry, did you review this contract? Okay, that's good.
Pretty much example we've been in for years, yes.
Well, the addition, there is an addition that the campground host will also be maintaining.
Same as now.
That was the only question I had.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12D, approval of ambulance medical director. Chris Whiting is retiring from this position, and we need to replace him, so.
So moved with a thank you to Dr. Whiting.
I'll support.
It has been moved and seconded to approve Brandon Drazich to serve as the Biwabik Ambulance Director. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12E, approval of warming shack attendance. It has been moved and seconded to approve the hiring of 2 warming shack attendants. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12F, first reading of ordinance number, do we have a number on that, Michael? I suppose we're kind of not caught up in our ordinances yet, so. First reading of the ordinance for the sale of real property owned by the city.
Support.
It has been moved and seconded to hold the first reading of the ordinance to approve the sale of real property. We can have a motion to belay the reading if you'd wish, or I can read it. It has been moved and seconded to dispense with the reading of the ordinance. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12G, approval of fire department resignation. It has been moved and seconded to approve the resignation. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12H, Resolution 2025-28, to approve administrative employee wages for 2026.
I'll make the motion.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the Resolution 2025-28. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'm sorry. Roll call, Shannon.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, resolution is adopted. And resolution 2025-29, adopting the fiscal year 2026 budget and levy. Tabling motion, yep. I don't think tabling doesn't need a support, does it? Or does it? It does, okay. It has been moved and seconded to table item 12I. Is there any discussion? I would like to set that meeting date as part of the, because we're going to have a special meeting, unless everybody's okay with me just calling it, but I would rather get everybody's. Don't rub it in.
Most days I'm off at 3, so I'll be back in town at like 3:15, 3:17, depending on snowfall, if we do have to work, but, well, I mean, that's what time we get home, most of the time. So, I mean, if we want to set up a time, I know that like tomorrow is supposed to snow, so that might be hit and miss, but,
How about Wednesday of next week? That's my only day that I don't have a special. 11 o'clock.
yeah, well, it's like 3:15. Next Wednesday, okay.
So it has to be after next Wednesday.
We can meet,
Huh?
we can meet that night after the budget meeting.
Oh,
I mean, I only have a few questions. but
Oh.
I just want to meet first.
sure.
Maybe-
17th, 10th is tomorrow, or 2 days from now.
No,
No, I
17th.
was talking to 17.
17th.
That's okay.
I mean, are you guys okay with like 5 o'clock? You think that's enough, or should we go?
I think it is.
Okay. Is that okay with everyone? 5 o'clock on the?
Yeah.
I think that would perfect.
I just don't want to pinch you guys on time if you think you should do like 5:30 or 6. It's my only.
I think
I think
we
Okay.
meet at, say,
I'm okay.
3:30, and then we can have a meeting at 5.
Okay. Yes, we're just. Right. Yep, so we'll bring it off the table at 5 o'clock at the special meeting. There might be one other or two other agenda items, but. The 17th at 5.
Yes.
30.
Okay. Okay, there is a motion and second to table 12I, the budget and a levy adoption.
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. It is tabled. That concludes new business. Moving on to item 13, there's a external communication from Hello Range. There is a volunteer fair for the East Range communities on Wednesday, February 11th at the Aurora Community Center from 3 to 7 p.m. That event is available online for anybody, so. And that moves us to item 14, open public forum. If anybody has anything not budget related they would like to address the council. Okay, hearing none, we will move to everybody's favorite motion.
So moved.
It has been moved and seconded to adjourn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned, 19:04.